ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank, of course, first and foremost, to our sponsors for the day, eTex Malaysia Sdn Berhad, for their support of the event. And we'd like to invite our sponsor representative to have their introduction of the product on stage at the moment. So without further ado, please welcome our first speaker, Mr. John Chia. Okay, sorry, this is not Mr. John Chia, sorry. I would like her to introduce herself. Close enough, Joanne. Okay, thank you.
A very good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As you can see here, as you know, passive fire protection is often appear like a tip of the iceberg. But in reality, it is more important and it's more complex and deeper our knowledge when it comes to design and implementations. Hence, we, the ProMat team, is here today to help you to navigate the key challenges that you face in fire building safety. My name is Joanne. I'm the marketing ladies, and together with me, joining me is actually Sean, is from the technical sales team, and also the speaker of today, John Chia. Okay, but what we're going to do differently today, instead of the normal, boring product talk, what we're going to do today is we'll try to do the fire fact versus the misconceptions. Because we always heard from the marketplace that, a lot of misconception that actually are about passive fire protection. Hence, we are inviting these two gentlemen to help us to demystify the misconceptions. All right? Here, we are actually inviting John, our speaker of today, who is actually a head of technical team, and also Sean Lee, the technical sales, to come on stage to help us to actually address some of the misconceptions. Basically, we're addressing the top 5 misconceptions that we always heard in the marketplace. So over to you, John and Sean.
All right. Good morning to everybody. All right. Today, I think we're going to go through is something that is a very daily communication that is happening in my office, actually. Right. So Sean is the frontliner. He actually gone through many meetings, some inquiries from the market, right? So I think we actually summarize it up with some 5 key misconceptions, actually, or something that is not sure coming from the market regarding this passive fire protection, right? So Sean, actually, what is your question actually you receive always?
Okay, basically we normally come across like, basically my building is already installed all those active fire protection. Let's say we already invest in the early detection system, we have fire suppression. So basically when there's a fire risk, the fire, when it starts to begin, is already being controlled, so there's no chance for the fire to be spread. So then why do we still need the passive fire protection like those fire-rated partitions, ceiling and so on?
Okay, actually, if you look at the overview of fire protection engineering, active and passive, both of them actually plays a very important role, right? Both of them function differently, right? So we cannot actually say that okay, sprinkle, I have sprinkle, right? So don't worry, everything is covered. But that is not the way, right? Sprinkle is to suppress the fire, right, in its function. But for passive fire protection is to prevent the fire spread, right? So both of these passive and active behave differently during fire time, right? So one is to detect. In active system is like, there's a fire, you detect the fire, try to suppress the fire. So in an event of the fire grow into a full developed fire, right? So that's where the passive actually comes in, right? So I believe most of you architects here, I think we Malaysian, right? So we study the UBBL, right? So if you can see the UBBL, actually they talk about the active systems and also a little bit much more on the passive. And I think the recent, the third edition guide to fire protection in Malaysia actually shares a fair bits of passive fire protection in it as well. So you cannot actually ignore it actually on that instance, right?
Thanks, John. Now I know what is the difference between the active and passive. So for the next question, normally when we come through, there's a BQ or there's a specification, or sometimes even some customer, they calling, hey, Sean, do you have, let's say, 2 hours fire rated board? I need the 12 mm thick. Yeah, basically, I mean, why it come through? Because like when we talk about a system, it's a full system, it's not about a board. So why always there's this kind of question, like I need a 12 mm thick, 2 hours, let's say a fire rated board?
Okay, this thing, I think when I started my career 25 years ago, when we still, there's a lot of phone calls coming in, right? So the first thing from the consultants or architects or contractors, right? So the easiest way, they always say that, do you have a fire rated board? Something like that. So until today, I think I noticed the guidebook also did mention fire rated board can be used blah 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 blah, something like that, right? So I wouldn't say that it's not correct, but it's just a jargon. I mean, for the understanding of the majority in the market, right? So, but for us as a specialist, right, in fire protection, right, in our world, there's actually no such thing as so-called fire-rated board, right? So, but it's just used as a reference or for the ease of understanding. You can actually say, oh, you have a fire-rated board or not. But then after that, we'll actually zoom in, right? What it means by fire-rated board, okay? Fire-rated board in our fire protection world, it doesn't mean anything because when you're exposed to a fire, it's just a board, right? How are you going to rate this board actually? You cannot. The so-called 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours fire rating, you cannot actually. If you throw into a testing of real fire testing, right, you have to build up as a system itself, right? So another better explanation here is actually, if you see timber, right, timber can actually burn. It's a combustible material, right? So if you ignite it, it will just burn. Right. So, but with the combination of different components, right? So it can be the so-called fire-rated board, right? So and then with your timber, everything, then we put it into the test rig to have a full-scale fire testing. We can get a 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours fire rating, right? So that means that it need to actually build as a system to declare it as the fire rating, not just a single component itself, right?
Yeah, now I have a better understanding. That's why normally when we go for specification, we talk about a full system, what kind of board, what is the thickness, then what kind of components, like for example for a partition, what kind of steel channels, the size, is there any infill, and then what kind of board that we need to use. So thanks, John, for that. For the next, yeah, I look at our agenda. Basically, what I seen is like we're going to have a partition test again. But I thought we just test a few weeks ago and we had passed for it. And I see the new test, the design, they are pretty much very similar. Why we always go for fire test for a similar construction again?
Okay, for these questions, actually, fire-rated wall is a generic as well. It's just a very general, right? So, but it cannot represent all systems that we have, actually. So I still recall back again, 20 years ago when I was in this line, my friend asked me, what are you testing? Why every time you test so many systems, right? Isn't it a wall is just a wall? Right? Is there so many things to test, actually? So bear in mind, actually, different construction, different types of wall behave differently during a fire, Right. So if you can see here, like there's different. You can have the normal infill with the mineral wool with some layer of boards. Then you have some wall without mineral wool. Then some with a combination of corrugated metal. Then some composite cement boards here. Right. So all this give a different reading when you do a fire test on it. Right, fire rating different, right? So even when we zoom in into just the one that with some mineral wool, all right? So if your contractor actually just, because the distance of the framing, right? So maybe is 610 mils, you change it to 1.2 meter distance, it gives a different results. So for us as a system owner, we have to get it fire tested to prove the fire rating itself, right? So a system itself, let's say a wall system, cannot actually represent everything, right? So if somebody proposed to you like, oh, I have a fire rated wall, 2 hours, right? Please look at the system itself inside, what it comprises. Does it actually suits what you want in your project site, actually, right? If not, please request to be fire tested. Right.
Yeah, I mean, for my export market, basically, some of the country, they do still accept for the integrity wall only. So in the case, sometimes, depending on what kind of criteria, we propose differently. So I could have a 2 hours fire rated wall, where we just fulfill integrity with one layer of 9 mm board with a start of 50 mm, so total wall thickness 59. But for another 2 hours fire rated, where you need to fulfill the insulation criteria for our system is about 136 mm. So always clarify where is the application area, and also what is the exact rating that you need to fulfill. Stability, integrity, insulation, these are the criteria that we will measure during a fire test. So we have different type of wall system, some even a slim one, but they can fulfill integrity and insulation. And some, they just integrity only. For the next, okay, I just come to know that we have this concrete upgrading system where there's a brick wall and we use our board to increase the fire resistance. But I thought by nature, concrete or steel, this kind of material, they are robust, they have good in strength. By nature, they are non-combustible, they could achieve certain fire rating. But why we still need to test for it?
Okay, day to day, of course, steel and concrete definitely is a very, very good material, right? So their strength, absolutely marvelous here, of course, steel, right? So for concrete, as the same, right? If we hit our fist to the concrete, I think we will damage our fist first, right? So, but those are the behavior of this material during a normal condition, right? So they can actually take the stress of up to 275 Newton per square millimeters in normal condition, right? So, but for during fire time, all this stress acting on this concrete or steel itself will actually drop tremendously when I'm talking about the steel first, right? So the mechanical strength of it actually falls after 550 degrees, right? So it will start to buckle and deflect, right? And it's not as strong as what you think during the normal condition. So, but for concrete itself, when you lay a concrete, I think we do a lot of tunnel projects. Unfortunately, not so much in Malaysia, but in Europe, we have a lot of tunnel projects. Those are dealing with a lot of concretes, right? So it is being recognized. We know that concrete will start to spoil during fire time, right? So the moisture that trapped inside the concrete when it's reached some certain boiling point, right, during fire time, it will actually spoil and actually expose the reinforcement bar in it itself. So that's where this reinforcement bar started to lose the strength and start to deflect and deform and end up the whole structure start to collapse here. So that's why you can see some of the cases there's a request to give some protective materials onto the structure surface, right? Let's say if you have a beam or a column, you need to be protected. And what about if you have a concrete surface, you just upgrade it, right? So I've also seen many old buildings that you cannot actually verify, right, the wall itself, whether how many fire rating it has. Of course, nowadays, I think if you guys go to Syria, they have been continuously testing brick wall, right, all those to prove the fire rating. But what about the very old days, our heritage buildings, right? All those, it cannot prove that whether it can withstand how many hours of fire rating. That's where actually you need to upgrade your wall or your slab itself, right?
Thank you, John. So, the next question is more on the fire stopping side. So, normally when we have the query, when we have something we need to ask about fire stopping, we go to architects. But sometimes the answer that we receive is like, the fire stopping part relate to M&E, then you need to check with the M&E consultant. But when we go to the consultant engineer, then telling us they just putting a very basic information in the drawing, but mostly the contractor, they are the one that they will propose what kind of solution is to be used. So my question is like, who should I contact? Who is responsible for fire stopping? I mean, to clarify, to make sure that the right solution is being used, or what kind of solution that we can propose to help them in their project.
Okay, this is a very valid questions brought from your market. Actually, I think throughout the years, there's this so-called thing who actually responsible on this sealing off that gap, the cables that is penetrating through, some services that is penetrating through. So at the end of these uncertainties, right, when after this, today now is weekend, right, you go to the shopping mall, easily just see the wall. At the end of the day, what happened? Most of all these gaps are not being sealed at all, right? So now back to the responsible, who should be responsible on all these things, right? So when we look at the pictures here, you can see all these openings, right? So of course, why there's an opening? First thing we ask ourselves, right? So there are cables that penetrating through, right? So these M&E contractors, right, they need to bore a hole on it, right, to enable all these services to go through, right? So once they have done their job, okay, bye-bye, thank you, they're gone, right? So, but don't forget, some of these holes are actually penetrating through the compartmentation, right? So, of course, in our Red Bull, our EPBL said that all these penetrations need to be properly sealed off. But of course, they didn't ever explain in detail, seal off with what, right? You can seal off with some cement, even some newspaper, right, in between. Then they put out the cement into it to conceal it, right? So at the end of the day, if there's a fire, this is the weak point actually, where all these big holes, the fire will penetrate through your compartment wall and the fire will spread to one compartment to another, right? So of course, when talk about compartment, then who should be looking into this? Of course, back to, I think, is architect's perspective. You don't need to know in detail, but at least I think when somebody breach your compartmentation, then you should have questioned them. All right, what are you going to do? You're touching my things actually, right? So you can't just lay your cable, then bye-bye, say bye-bye already, right? So it's back also when proposing the system is the M&E consultants, right? They should be very sound. Okay, what am I going to do with this hole now, right? So rather than just simply put some newspaper, cement it, something like that. No, that is not the correct way. Okay. I'm sure you definitely have a lot of questions to ask me, right, every day, right? So I think that's any more coming from your side?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
right.
all.
Okay, so thank you, Sean, for sharing this, what we have going throughout. Generally, we got hundreds of questions, right? So we actually, today we are here, I think it's very, very important to get all of your feedback. Doesn't matter you are junior architects or senior architects, right? So we actually want to hear, right, from your perspective, right, on the things that you have encountered, experienced in the market, right? So, and at the same time, what can we actually do to help everyone out here, right? And also help myself, right? Because I'm still learning, right, until today. So here's a QR scan. This is something a little bit of marketing stuff, right? Right. So just scan it. I hope the question will not be too taxing. It's just some drop down. You just choose, right? So I think at the end of today, then we will pick. I think to thank you for doing this survey. There are some prize given out, right, for 10 selected participants here, right. So just take some time, right. I knock off a little bit before I start my next topic today, right. So just go through it, right, quickly. And of course, this survey will also be analyzed, right. So I think because of lately you hear a lot of this data protection stuff thing going on, right? So those who are interested can drop your emails to us, then we will share to you individually on the findings, right? I believe this is quite valid question. I've gone through the question as well, so it's quite valid, right? I believe it can help every one of us here as well.
So, ladies and gentlemen, just before we begin, I'd like to reintroduce Mr. John Shah, who will be giving us the talk shortly. Mr. John Shah is a regional technical manager for ProMat Asia, holds a mechanical engineering degree from Leeds University in the United Kingdom. Since 1988, he began his career as a marine sales and service engineer in Singapore before joining ProMat in 1998. And for the past 7 years or so, he has contributed significantly to passive fire protection solutions, conducting inspections and fire testing across Europe and the Asia Pacific. Transitioning to Rockwool in 2006, he excelled as a technical manager, later senior technical manager, providing expertise to projects for Shell, ExxonMobil, and others. And the focus, of course, is on thermal insulation and fire conservation in energy-intensive industries. Marked his tenure, and returning to ProMat in 2014, he managed technical operations in Asia, leading research and development offers. So, clearly very, very qualified to give today's speech on passive fire protection not being optional in data centers. Okay, so I think we can begin. Do you want to start shortly? I mean, are we done with the survey, ladies and gentlemen? Pretty much? Okay, I guess so. I'll take your silence as a yes. Passive fire protection not optional in data centers. As a brief intro, yeah? As an architect shaping the future of digital infrastructure, your design decisions directly impact the safety, resilience, and longevity of data centers. That's the gist of what is about to be mentioned right now. So without further ado, once again, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Shah.
Thank you very much for having me here today again. I think I was here last year to present some topics on the EV cars. So today I will be presenting this topic. I think more or less a lot of consultant architects has been involved. All right, so everybody is very, very busy for these 2 years. If you look at the press, right, data center projects is everywhere, right, here and there, right? So, but of course, the focus is more on the ICT part there, right? How are we going to hold all these servers into a building, all this and that, right? So, but suddenly there's a little bit about on fire protection come into picture now, right? So don't forget that while everybody is busy, how to host the server, how to put it on cloud, how to put the hard disk into all this building itself, right? So, but while building the so-called infra, the structure of the buildings, right? So this fire protection shouldn't be neglected itself, right? So when we take a step back, right, all right. So if we put ourselves into into the fire shoes, right? So we ask ourselves, if I'm a fire, right? Do actually I will recognize type of building, right? If I want to like when this growing stage during a fire, do I actually recognize, is it a factory, is it a commercial building, or is it institutional buildings, something like that, right? So if I'm a fire, I don't actually care, right? So it's just that us as a human, right, we start to categorize it under, okay, it's a factory, or now it's a data center itself, or maybe it's a hospital, or what, and so, right? So when fires start to ignite and start to burn, they don't care, all right? So they will just engulf and burn whatever they can, right? It's just like a hungry guy. When 2 days you're so hungry, then I treat you, go to a buffet, a Shangri-La buffet. Wow, then you just take and eat, right? You don't care whether it's a Shangri-La buffet or whatever buffet, you just eat, right? So fire behave exactly like that itself, right? So when there's a fire in a premises, regardless of the building type, or in our BBL classified as purpose group itself, it will just burn and burn, right? It become catastrophic, right? And some unfortunate case, it will be deadly, right? So this is one of the fire in Europe. It can be so bad and so bad, right? So the nearest incident, of course, is not so much relates on a building fire, right? So the USJ gas pipe fire, right? You can imagine the fire is so hot, right? So it can actually melt some of the metals nearby, the premises nearby, the housing, right? You can see the car start to, those aluminum stuff start to melt, everything, right? So the radiation, right, is so bad, right? Besides having such a big fire, right, but the surrounding, right, it will be affected, okay? So now the topic today is definitely data center. So we will zoom in actually, right? So first thing first, definitely when I start a talk, always I want to understand the fire, right? So in a very, very simple principle is that fire will actually happens, right, through three components here, right? So there's the oxygen, there's the fuel itself, and the chain reaction of this fire is the heat that develop from there, right? So as a fire engineer, fire protection engineering specialist here, right, we actually look into the fuel, right? So in reality, we cannot actually take out the oxygen, right? There's no way we can take out the oxygen unless it's a vacuum. It becomes a vacuum, right? So not the fire die first. All of us here die first if we take out the oxygen, right? So what we can actually look in is the fuel, right? So now in data center itself, normally there's an ignition, right? So that caused the fire. So now we are dealing with a lot of electrical cables here, right? So what if the electrical cables heated up, right? So then it can cause some ignition here. So of course, equipments, you can see a lot of equipments which later I will just describe a little bit more on this data center, what they have inside here, right? So what about fire from outside, right? What about fire from outside? Somebody maybe sabotage, or That's coincidentally there's a EV car park outside, right? Caught fire, right? So, and what about inside the building premises itself? I say building premises means that not only data center, many places, all the buildings, you definitely have some combustible materials, right? So you cannot prevent that, right? So these combustible materials will fuel the fire itself, right? So when it starts to burn, it will be really bad here, right? So first of all, the strategy. Just now the first question asked as well, what sort of strategy we actually use, right? Is it active or is it a passive now, right? So, but both plays a very important role, right? So the first one, active, is definitely, in general terms, is just that they detect and they try to suppress the fire, right? So for passive side, passive don't do any work, as it's already said. It's a passive, right? When you build it, it will be there forever, right? So you don't have to like make sure it will work or not, right? Hopefully, you don't have a chance to test it out, right? Because it's normally when there's a fire, then you start testing. Let's say you build a fire-rated wall here, right? So there's a fire, then you only can prove that. So hopefully don't, right? So unlike active, sometimes they do maintenance or the checking periodically to make sure the sprinkler will actually function or not. All these are very technology-driven stuff. You can have a trial run on it. But on passive, you can't, right? Hopefully, even me, work in a pacifier industry, I don't want. Hopefully, don't try it because when you try it, means there's a fire, real fire, right? So hopefully it doesn't happen, right? So I think the important part here is to prevent the fire spread from one area to another for pacifier protection, right? That's the key point, actually, right? So then, from strategy-wise, we look into objective. Okay, the main objective, which applies in our world of fire protection, right? So the important first is definitely protecting people, right? So then after that, don't forget, once the occupants evacuate from the premises, that's where our so-called abang bomba, the fire rescue department's guy, will risk their life and go in and try to save whoever are still left behind, or maybe try to put out the fire manually here, right? Then thirdly is definitely protecting the building and assets here. So then we start to ask ourselves, in this data center now, right? Is everybody have experienced how the structures like, how they operate in data center here? Most of you here, or some haven't have the chance to go into this building, right? Most of it here, or have? No, some, yeah. Okay, never mind, doesn't matter. So now, the important here is that if you look into a data center now, then we start to ask ourselves a question now. Is this accessible to everybody, this building, right? So recent visits, I found that most of the data center actually is very minimally operated by people, actually. So they build a big data center, but actually very little people inside, actually. And of course, it's not accessible by anybody, right? So it's a very secretive place, right, I would say. Right, so basically the person who are inside there actually, every day he go there, do some work, then go home, right? So these people is just like us. We go to office, right? We go back to our home. We know the area very clear, right? So if there's a fire, it's very unlikely this person like lost his way out. He wouldn't know how to go out from the building, right? So like this center, right? All of us here have come here many times, right? So touch wood, in event of fire, you know how to go out, right? So you know, right? Unless first time I'm here, then I might get lost if during there's a fire, right? So, but I see the design here is very open, right? A lot of space, so there's a lot of fire. The smoke can actually dissipate out of the building, so it's relatively safe, right? If there's a fire, there's a chance to dissipate the smoke out of the building, right? So in data center, back to data center, definitely we are looking here. The objective is definitely is to protect the asset here, right? Not so much on people, not so many people. Even got people, they know how to escape from a building here, right? So the risk is very, very minimal. So, but for the building itself, as it comprises a lot of ICT components inside, because they are the one who actually fit the daily usage with e-wallet, everything of e-wallet. Where's all this data being stored, right? Every day you press the e-wallet thing, touch and go, all this and that, right? Even all the work you do inside, now most of the company all go to cloud, right? Where is it? Actually it's all stored in from all this data center itself, right? So you can imagine if there's a fire happen in any one of the data center, right? Most likely some of the data cannot be accessible for some period of time, right? So it will, maybe suddenly your WhatsApp cannot work, then how, right? Something like that. So it's very, very important to ensure that even if there's a fire, there's a minimal disruption to the operation, right? So the data center, the people who take charge of it can quickly reinstall or reinstate back the functionality of this data center itself, right? Okay. So in Red Book, as I explained just now, when they define the purpose group here, all right, let's take a step back, right? So before that, they was talking about fire rating, how many hours, all these things, right? So they actually, same thing, they look into the fire risk area, the risk that actually will happen during a fire, right? So you look into the field itself, the fire load, right? So your building design, what's the fire load inside, right? Then the fire risk, what's the occupant's activity, if he's involved in a lot of like very dangerous activities, like very combustible activities, right? So they will start to classify that. Right, so then if you see here, there's a sleeping risk, right? Sleeping risk is much more on the awareness, right? So especially like hotels, right? So there's definitely a lot of people sleeping inside the hotel, right? What if there's a fire happen, all right? So if this guy have been deeply in sleep, can he actually awake, right? Can he awake or not? You can smell the smoke? No, right? You listen to this, the fire alarm trigger, right? So because when there's a smoke, right, very likely that when you sleep that time, your sensitivity of smelling will actually drop, right? So if you're deeply in sleep, right? So but your ear, you still, all the frequency still coming into your ear. Let's say there's a fire alarm, will trigger your brain. So even while you're asleep, you still can hear a little bit of the fire alarm thing here, right? So we actually look into this sleeping risk. So now data center, is there anybody sleeping in data center? No, right? Right. So it's not, right? So mostly the person also 24 hours, they go there and work, right? So it's a shift work, right? So, and then, as I said just now, the familiarity, right, of the space, right? So if you go to a big, let's say, I don't often go to Mid Valley nowadays, right? I think they already refurbish, already extend, right? So, but now, if I go there, I'm not familiar anymore. If there's a fire, I may be in trouble getting out of it. So, but all this is not me to concern about. It's the person who designed it, the building design, whether you want me to get out of building easily or in much difficult position, right? So these are the things that determine in UBBL the nice schedule, right? It's the purpose group here. So in a data center, most of you here, I believe, because this nota, I think also garis panduan is being forwarded to everybody here, right? So is that on Bomba side is that berdasarkan mesyuarat Majlis Perundingan between the Jabatan Bomba and Badan Profesional dated 2024, I think somewhere in mid of the month last year, right? So they actually classified data center as kilang, right? So well, then normally this is the first step, right? We need to identify, is it a building, normal, institutional, or what, right? So it's a kilang here, right? So later I will show you some example, okay? What we need to protect when it classified as a kilang group here, okay? So in a data center, as I said, first thing is the ICT equipments here. So definitely they have a lot of racks, servers, to enable all those cloud computing activities going on. Then, of course, all those backup systems, right? So those are the ICT thing. Then, besides that, they have, first thing, very importantly, they need uninterrupted power supply, right? UPS system going in it, which comprise of batteries, right? So what is this UPS all about? It's very important. If in case there's a power outage, right, then this UPS within millisecond will take over, right? So there will be no interruption on your so-called cloud services, all those things going on your ICT, right? So they will function between 10 to 30 minutes before your generator start to kickstart, right? Your diesel generator or other form of generator start to go in, right? And switch over, right? So besides that, there's so-called, if you're heard of, right? It need a lot of air conditioning to cool down the whole place, right? So of course they have the chiller systems outside the building here, right? And use a lot of water as well, right? And so these are the general things, right? Which, as refer back just now I mentioned, so fire, where's the fire risk, right? First thing, ICT, thousands of cables going around, right? The building. Definitely you will penetrate through compartment walls, right? So that will be one of the area that we have to look into it, right? So then diesel generator, generator sets. These are considered, if there's a fire happens on this gen set or transformers, it will be very catastrophic here, right? So the batteries in UPS, lithium ion, again, battery is a very combustible item here as well. So all these equipments that station, right, inside the data center, you need to find a way to protect it, right? Putting in mind if there's a fire, right? So then what you're going to do about it, right? So, but of course, again, back to the strategy here, there's this active, right? Okay, if there's a fire, there's an alarm, there's a suppression system. What about the compartmentation, the wall that protect it? What about the gaps you forgot to seal off, right? It will just spread to other areas. So eventually your whole building will go down, right? So now, I think it's getting serious now. So I'll just ask the floor here, right? That's a question, that's a gift. I think my marketing already stand by here, right? So it's a first come, first serve, okay? Let me ask you a question. The approach now, just now I mentioned all the fire risks. The approach, there's 4 approach, all right? So the first one I want to focus at is definitely the structural here, right? So the question is objective based, right? Why should fire safety structural still emerging as a primary concern, right? So, okay, so there's A, B, C, D here, all right? So, which answer do you think here, actually? I'm sorry, she first. Next time you sit in front, you get first. Right, okay, so the answer is it B? Structural steel can weaken significantly at high temperature, leading to potential collapse, which is really true right here. Okay, congrats. You get something for yourself. I think a small little gift inside, right? Okay, so the answer is definitely B here. Okay, so as I said just now, when there's a fire occur in a building, right, first thing we look at is definitely the structural, right? So if the structural can't stay there for some time, right, so it will just collapse, then what's the point of having a very changi protection system or whatever, what else, right? So no point, right? So we have to look at the structural first, right? So most of the, as I repeat again here, most of the high-rise fire burn at least more than 500, about 500 degrees above here, right? So steel soften at 1,000 degrees, right? So, and they start to melt at 1,500 degrees, if I'm not wrong here, right? So generally is that when the structural start to soften down, your structural will not maintain the stability here, right? No matter your compartmentation is actually in between, right? You just all go at the end of the day, right? Okay, so I think there's a nota here as well. I think 3.6 of, right? So they actually mention here that semua elemen structure bangunan hendaklah mempunyai tempoh ketahanan api, right? In undang-undang kecil, right? So I think they for this undang-undang kecil bangunan seragam, right? So they actually mention here, right? Your structural at least need to be 2 hours fire rating, right? So before even start of any design, understand this statement here. So, but of course, throughout the years, there's a lot of confusing. Hey, this steel also need to be protected or not, right? So many, the framing, right? So I think thanks to all the hard work, I think the Red Book clarify out actually, which I will show a little bit why I say that later on, which structural steel need to be protected, which one you don't need to be protected, right? They put in a very graphical manual. I think some of the architects here involved in drafting this as well. So thank you very much on this to clarify out. Yeah. Okay, so this is one of the example in the car park that during there's a fire. Okay, so you can see the concrete actually spoil, right? So the concrete spoil and expose the reinforcement bar. It's not so much about the concrete itself actually, it's when the concrete start to spoil, the exposure of this steel that matters here, right? So that's where the steel lose strength at 550 degrees C, right? So that's where your structure start to collapse, right? So this is one of the after fire tests, after real fire incidents, all right, happen in some buildings in the world, right? So we managed to capture that. You can see that that's the steel that is being exposed, the reinforcement bar, and then of course the column, the steel column buckle, right, terribly, right? Eventually this building collapsed as well. Right. So thanks to the recent Rebook, I share a little bit here. All right. So because I think the picture is very, very clear when you have a single story here. All right. So you have a single story factories. All right. Especially this, you can see a lot in the factories. Right. So they actually put the blue color structure don't need to be fire rated. Right. So but at the wall, right. If you see the picture on your, let's start with your right-hand side, okay? Right-hand side. So this one, you can see here is, left-hand side, your left-hand side. So there's a compartmentation, there's a mezzanized floor. Maybe those are for officers, right? They do all this level. So all the structure involved need to be fire rated, right? So, but if you look at the picture at the right hand side, there's a single story here. All right, just a single story. So in between the column there, it doesn't need to be fire rated, right? So there's a reason, I believe. So basically is that if there's a fire, right, they allow the whole thing to collapse, right? So, but please, if you have a fire, always there's a said, right? You are burn your own premises, okay? Don't burn next door, all right? So that's where your separating wall, right, need to be fire rated, and also your structural that involved in it here. Okay. Okay, there's another example here, structural protection here. There's a multiple stories as well, so you have to look at it. Need to be protected, fire protected as well, mostly. Right. So the roof up there, they presume that the people actually is during fire time, then they're already gone. Right. The collapse at the very topmost, because normally the topmost building, the person there will quickly come down from the building, right, to try to evacuate, right. So generally, the roof structure are meant to be collapsed because they want to dissipate all the smoke out, to act as a chimney, right? Something, all the smoke dissipate out, right? So all these are the red items need to be fire rated, right? Okay, I think the red book outside, I saw them selling it also, right? Okay, so in the market, what sort of solution you actually can see, right? So one of it is traditionally is the board cladded, right? So you can clad it with board, right? So this board actually, one of the advantages is that it can give up to 4 hours fire rating, and of course it is much more durable, right? If you clad with the board system here, right? So commonly you can see also a lot this in car parks, right? So you can see some spray, vermiculite spray, right? But it's not so nice. I mean the texture, right? So but it serves the same purpose. It will give you up to 4 hours fire rating. So lastly, I think lately the technology has been improved tremendously compared to the last 20 years. A lot of fire-rated paints being used, right? Because for structural steel engineers, they like to display all the nice-looking structural steel, right? So if they clad with board or they spray with vermiculite, it's not so nice, right? So they just paint it. It's just like ordinary paint, but it's not an ordinary paint. It's a fire-rated paint here. Okay, so that's good, that's bad, right? Of course, all of these products here, right? Some of the example here, this will refer back to one of the factories projects that's the wall, right? So outside the wall is your neighbor or whoever. So the wall is definitely fire rated. So if you can see all the steel structure is being painted by intumescent paint, right? So this will fulfill back to just now the picture I show you, right? The red book one. Right, so you can see, right? So we'll meet the regulations here. Okay, so some of the items here, if you look at the picture here, is actually a board cladding. So one of the advantage of a board cladding is actually you can finish off with some texture, right? A wood texture here, right? You laminate with the wood here. Right, so this is one of the board protection project reference. The second one is the spray, right? So it's not so nice. So normally in factory they use a lot, right, as well, right? So but bear in mind, like for data center here now, I think the recent comment is that it may cause some dust issue. So it's not so preferable, right? Because the surface when you spray, right, then you touch on it, you can see some dust, right? So data center, they are very sensitive about all this dusting, right? So, but of course, there is some solution, right? I think lately the R&D guy also found out, hey, it's very easy to solve this thing. You just need to paint. We tried out on Maxilite, you know, the Maxilite, the one that you paint on your ceiling one. Those very cheap paints, water-based, right? You just need to paint over to solve the dust issue, right? So then this is the intumescent paint, right? So you have a very nice structural steel here. You can paint it with intumescent, right? Without spoiling the entire look of it. Yeah. Okay. So then second approach here for for this specified protection we have in mind here is definitely compartmentation. So I think it involves all of us here, right? Compartmentation. So before that, we was talking about the escape road, escape distance, escape timing, all these things. All these roads are being compartmentalized, right? So it's very safe. There's no fire, right? So you can actually not run, but just walk in a fast manner, right, out of the building, right? So the conceptual here is actually, first thing for us, we look at it, is just to prevent the fire spread, right, from one area to another. So the second is to restrict any movement of smoke to that area, and also prepare an evacuation road for the occupants to get out of the building itself. So also I noticed when I prepare all this, then I noticed one thing very clear in Malaysia. Still a lot of brick walls being used, right? The understanding is like, compartment wall, I need to do a brick wall, right? So because brick wall give me 2 hours or maybe 4 hours fire rating. So but when I look at this guide, actually, they mention actually except for party walls, right? You cannot use drywall. Right. Other than that, right, you can use other construction materials to build out of your fire rated wall. Right. So, but need to be proven. Right. So basically, of course, some system manufacturers, they will claim that this is a firewall. Right. So then you ask for bomba approval, all these things. Right. So need to be proven. Right. So then you can actually use. Right. So some of the compartmentation solutions is actually it's just to make it very straightforward, is there's a horizontal, there's a vertical opening, right? You need to close it up, as simple as that, right? So it's like if you have a big opening, it can be a fire rated wall. Now, if this is a compartment, that is a fire rated wall, right? You need to close up. If above your ceiling, there's a lot of combustible cabling going through, right? There's a possible of ignition, right? So then you have to close it off as well as a fire-rated ceiling, right? So cavity barriers here, lately I saw one of the projects, right? You can call a smoke barrier, cavity barriers, right? It's just to prevent fire spread from one area to another, because when sometimes you install a fire-rated wall, right, that's a ceiling, but fire-rated ceiling, right? But above the ceiling is a big cavity, right? This is always in one of the data center, right, project. So what they do, they just need to build another cavity barrier, they call it, right, to close up the gap on above the wall itself, right? So some of the projects, I think these are quite interesting. Some of the projects, data center we have may not be suitable over here, but this just as a reference, right? So they have a generator set here, right? So it's outside the building. So why do these architects actually wanted a barrier, right, onto it? Because they deem this generator set as risk. It's a risk or fire risk, right? If there's a fire now on the gen set, right? So the fire actually start burning and start to burn the level above of it, right? So they wanted it to be designed in a way that they put a barrier, right, underneath and above the gen set is trying, that is being built there, right? Here, so it's like if there's a fire, at least the fire will not straight away attack upwards here, right? So, but of course, these are for data centers that is having limited space. In our environment, our country, I think most of the data center is very big, right? So they can actually, most of the genset are inside, right, the building. So what we're going to do is the wall is being fire rated, or the slab, is it properly protected? All these things we have to think about it as well. Okay, another case study is like the transformer. This one is above the roof. So they worry if there's a fire happen on the transformer now. So they want to minimize the spread of the fire. So they built a vertical barrier, right, surrounding the transformer itself, right. So this is to deflect the fire from going everywhere, right. So all these are being fire tested as well to prove the performance, right. So another situation here, right, is a random, right. So this is something, if you have a genset or transformer underground, right, so then most likely in a lifetime, your transformer or generator will not be changed, right. So but in an event, it break down and require it to be changed, then how? You cannot take out because all your wall is already, like, let's say if you build out a brick wall, then you have to hack your whole brick wall to bring out the transformer. So there is such a barrier that they call it a removable partition, right? So in a lifetime, it will not be used at all if your transformer has not been changed, right? So these are some of the projects actually randomly picked. I think our MRT stations, we have all this in place, right? So thirdly, fire stopping, just like I mentioned, hundreds of cables going through your compartmentation wall, right? Actually, it's nothing to do with architects actually, but it's just that they penetrate through your compartment walls. So, right, so you need to fire stop it, right? So, but of course, to contain, right? If you see, there's a picture here, right? So you can see plastic pipes, those plumbing pipes going through the compartment wall. During fire, you actually soften down and leave a big hole onto it if it is not being fire stopped properly here, right? So of course, if you can see here, there are many solutions, of course, right, in the market. Right, you can actually see, I think not only ProMat is doing it, I think many pro doing it. But the question here is that how rigorous they test it, right? Right. Sometimes they just give you a blanket. I have this fire stopping, right? So it covers. They don't even bother to ask, what are you trying to protect, right? Well, is it a cables? What's the size of your cables? When pipes, is it a steel pipe? Is it a PVC pipes? Right? What's the distance between each of these services? Right? So cables, is it how many kV cables, kilowatt cables you're using? All these things, right? So maybe they will give you a general. But fire stopping doesn't work that way. When we test fire stopping, we have to test individual most of the items, right, to prove its fire performance, right? So now comes to the second question of the day here, right? I think this question, some of you attended my session last year, you may already know the answer right here. Okay, so regarding a fire stopping, if a small little hole here, right? So in a room, how long will it take for the smoke to fill the room next door, right? Until you cannot even see your hand. Okay, so I give you some objective answer here. All right, anyone from the crowd, what do you think? A or B? Gentlemen, give a chance at the back there. A. Okay. Any more? C. Right. So basically, this question is just trying to say that, okay, it's not a joke. It's just if you leave a small little gap, and considering there's a fire next door, the smoke will come to your side within this period of time until you cannot even see your hand, right? So if it happens, unfortunately, if let's say I'm inside this room, then most likely I cannot get out of the room because the smoke will kill me first, actually. I can't even see my hand, right? Okay, so I think no more answer, right? So I think the gentleman at the back there deserve a prize. So it's just 3 minutes, right? So I think there's a lot of study on this, actually, right? So I think Also, when they design, when a person run off the building, if there's a fire, you only have 3 minutes to do so, right? Before it become dangerous, right? Okay. So this can be a show of the complexity of doing a fire test, right? So, but you guys don't have to worry at all because this is my job, not your job, right? So I have to go through it, make sure everything get it through, right? So this is a full-scale fire testing, various type of pipes, various types of cables penetrating through it, right? So this is some of the tests we've done in Serim lately. A small little one for me, I deem is a baby one, right? Okay, so let me give you a better idea how it is being performed, right, in a real fire testing world, right? Okay, let's have a look at a video here. It's just only 2 minutes plus, right? Bear with me, right? Have a look at it, right?
At ProMat, we want to bring our customers the fire-stopping solution that meets their expectations, offers them 100% peace of mind, and we are tailoring our offer to the needs of the market. In the last 5 years, we have carried out about 100 fire tests of fire-stopping penetrations and joints. This time, we tested penetrations and linear joint seals in sandwich walls. The products we use to protect the installation passages are top-quality certified fire protection solutions. These include fire-stopping coatings, collars and sealants, but also coated mineral wool boards. The preparation for such a test takes about 50 hours, and the chosen pipe end configurations as well as the placement of the thermocouple must comply with the standards. The test of the PVC pipe is carried out in a UU configuration, that is, ends open in the furnace and outside it, so that fire and high temperatures affect the pipe along its entire length. The plastic pipe softens once it has reached the right temperature, and the fire stop product placed around it in the form of a warp or collar expands and fills the gaps in the partition once the plastic pipe has burned away. Smoke during this test is normal, as we are not auditing smoke tightness but fire resistance and insulation. The temperature of the furnace at 90 minutes reaches more than 1000 degrees Celsius. The thermocouple's reading can be checked at any time during the test on the monitor screen. It shows the fire resistance and insulation, that is, the ability of an element to withstand the effects of fire from the exposed side to the unexposed side. We test the fire tightness with the help of a gap gauge, a cotton pad, or optically. This property is considered to be lost when a continuous fire of more than 10 seconds occurs on the unexposed side of the test specimen, or the cotton pad catches fire within 30 seconds of being applied to the test specimen, or when the fire results in a gap exceeding the permissible dimensions. Any deviation, no matter how small, results in a narrowing of the application possibilities of the solution. Sometimes, to reach correct fire resistance class for some penetrations, you need to repeat your test and improve solutions in order to assign an appropriate fire resistance to the tested solution. Unsurprisingly, these tests bring a lot of excitement to the people running the project and to the Institute's employees. Do you want to keep up to date with our tests? Please visit promat.com and like our social media accounts, where you can find all the content we prepare for you. See you!
Okay, so it's actually it's a very, very complex test, right? So it's something that we put in many penetrations in one go and trying to see which one can perform, which one cannot perform here. So of course the result is also very, very long, right, in the test reports, right? So a lot, of course, That's why bear in mind, all these things are maybe is for us to present to you, right? So see whether you want to check it properly or not, actually, to validate the results at the end of the day, right? So of course, throughout the years of my experience also, I'll see some told me that their product can actually perform very well with certain thicknesses or whatever, right? So but when I go to experience what they are doing, their so-called fire testing, right? This is something I found, right? So they just put some little fire here, like what you do in your barbecue, right? So this is not correct, right? So fire testing is like, there's the test standard involved. The facilities is all being controlled environment, right? There's appropriate thermocouples that is being tacked onto it to get all your temperature, and there are some certain ways to measure the criteria of passing or failing here. So those that sometimes they overpromise you something, please check what is the method that they do in terms of testing, right? So I'm not so worried about Malaysia here, but some countries actually do fall behind back actually on this testing standard. But Malaysia, I think we are pretty safe because of all our test laboratories over here, right? Okay, so some even try to prove it by, okay, I put a torch to my product, it don't burn, right? So, but in a real fire, it's not just a small little area that is being exposed to fire. So this type of test is just for layman understanding, right? But officially, it cannot be used to prove your performance, especially we are talking about fire rating. You cannot use this as a proof that once I pass the so-called Bunsen burner test, is my product is 2 hours fire rating or 4 hours fire rating. You cannot do that, right? Okay. Okay, so there are many solutions in the market. When you come across this, you can easily check. With just now, my friend, my colleague, right, Sean here, he's the one who actually will give you the appropriate solutions in the market, right? So it's not so much about sales thing, actually, right? A lot of people, I think, misunderstood us, actually. We, in our company, there are more technical people than salespeople, actually, right? So it's all these solutions need to be fire tested accordingly, and until being installed at site, the contractors plays a very important part as well to ensure that this system work in an event of fire here, right? Okay, this is one of the very interesting system that we have in place, right? IMC box, so there's some samples over there. So in data centers, this is one of the picture captured in some of the data centers here. So because you have so many cables going through, right, a big opening. So when they start to seal off the opening first, and then after that, with this product IMC box here, so the cables can go through it, right? So any time of the year, if the engineers wanted to add in more cables, they can do so, right? But if there's a fire, right, happen, the blue collar there will actually expand and close off the gap itself, right? So it's quite popular, I think, in the data center, this, right? So there's other many protections here. I think you can easily check from our website here, right? So another interesting things we have is here, there's this, you see the black thing is actually is an iron grill. We call it, it looks like a grill, but it's not a grill, right? So during a fire time, right, you actually expand and close off the opening. So most likely this can be used in most of the rooms that need some ventilation. But at the same time, during fire time, you need to close up this opening, right? Okay, this is how it actually works, right? Okay, so this is how you install. You give some normal ambient ventilation, right? But during fire time, of course, you will actually close off the gap if there's a fire, right? So you just close off like this, right? It's not mechanically driven, right? It's not power operated. Okay, it only works during fire time. Okay, so other solutions for fire stopping like this one, right? You have some big cables from another story going to another story, right? So you need to open a big opening, but you don't want to seal it off, right? So we have made of some boards system, right? And this is made of something that accessible. You can open and close as you wish, right? So these are some of the example of fire stopping. So lastly, here the approach that we are taking into is talking about what about the smoke now, right? So if there's a fire, there's a smoke, right? How are you going to bring this smoke out of the building, right? And also, what about cables going through your compartmentation, right? Do you need to be protected? Of course, you can. Here actually there's this so-called fire-resistant cables as well, right? So they have tested into different types of testing standards, right? So this enclosure, or we call it fire ducts, right, have different way of testing. So what can actually happen if there's a fire in one area, the weak point is actually when the smoke extraction duct starts to extract the hot smoke. The hot smoke actually easily is 1000 degrees C, right, going through your compartment, right? So if the passage, right, so it's just, let's say you have a huge area, right? So you have to go through multiple compartmentation and only go out of the building. So before this smoke able to get out of the building, the duct, if it is not a fire-rated duct, you will just collapse and defeat the whole entire purpose of your so-called smoke extraction system here. All right. So of course, in the nota, if you go back to the data center, this circular issued by Bomba last year, right? They actually just mentioned two things, right? So you need to fulfill your MS 1780 and 1472. Right, the criteria of smoke extraction and pressurization system, right? So then when I go inside these two MS standard here, is very minimal. We mentioned about the material used to build of your fire ducts or your entire systems, right? They talk about the airflow, rain, all those sort of things they covered, right? So, but they didn't actually say, hey, your duct need to be fire rated. So now it's back to us whether what I said today here, it makes sense or not, right? So you have a very good standards here actually, but what if the duct collapse? Then what happen? Your smoke will never get out of the building, right? At the end of the day, right? So importantly, this for you, Mr. Architects, to consider, right? So your components, all your duct components, right, should be fire rated, right? You cannot be just have a blanket statement saying that, okay, you just meet the airflow, all these things. But if the components is not made out of fire rated systems or components, right, then it's all defeat the purpose of your entire exercise here, right? So another simulation here is just like, coincidentally, there's a fire in another area, right, passing through your compartment. The guy are running for their life, right? So, but if this duct is not being insulated, you won't see the fire coming out, but the heat will actually kill you, right, itself. Yeah. So that's why I think in Malaysia, most of the ducts is insulated, right? You need to be fire insulated, not the normal thermal insulated. You have your air con one, all those. It's not, right? It's fire time. The heat will not come to your head, right? Okay, there's many solutions in the market actually, right? So generally, I summarize here for quick reference. There's three types. One, you have a steel duct, then you clad some boards over it, right? Then secondly, you don't have the steel duct. You straight away have a board that made of the duct itself, right? Then the third one, I think this is quite common in Malaysia, is the painted one, right? So those you can see a lot everywhere in the car parks, right? So, but ask the question, is this duct insulated or non-insulated, right? So bear in mind on that, right? Okay, so that comes to almost the end of my talk here. I'll share some here is some, all these are from data center, right? So, but it's not in my position to tell you which project is this, right? So, but this one of the projects that we got is something like they have a smoke extraction, right? So they want to this big smoke extraction going through the shaft of the building. So the earlier discussion is about, okay, I use this shaft as the big duct, right, to extract the hot smoke out of the building, right? So, but that is not the case. Actually, your shaft is not meant to be a duct itself, right? So eventually, we propose to the project is that within the shaft, you have to build a duct, right, made of call it fire-rated duct system, right? You cannot just by coincidence use your shaft and okay from there extract. How are you going to prove it's going to work, right? So, but if you build a duct, all these ducts are tested to the appropriate British standards, right? BS 476 Part 24, right? So this is one of the project we use, right? Multiple story of data centers, right? So other than that, big cables, right? This also, all these are data centers, all right? So 11 kV cables, right, penetrating through your compartments, right, is, or non-compartment, because these cables are used for life safety, right? So have you imagined, have you think of like active system, right? How it actually works during fire time? You need to have some electrical signals fit into your system, then only can work, right? So these are the life safety cables, right? So it need to be protected, right? So the other one is the fiber optics, right? Fiber optics, they also enclose it in a dark way, right? So these are some of other examples you can see here. Multiple layers. The picture on your left-hand side you can see is the not so relates to data center. I can say this out. This is Merdeka 118. Okay, so from ground floor to 118 story is a life safety cables. Right next to it is a normal riser, normal electrical cables. They don't care actually that one. Right. So but this one important. Because if there's a fire, how your sprinkler don't work if the cable burn off already, right? So they protect this cable, right? So in an event of fire, all the active system can actually work, right? Okay, so I think that's almost comes to the end of my presentation here. I want to summarize it, okay? Basically, I think be it with a data center, a building, a hospital, any public buildings, right? Or even until our residential, right? We cannot disregard it of this passive fire protection, right? And it's very, very clearly spoken out here. I think we are pretty much aligned nowadays. The Red Book already have, if you refer it, I think by pages is the same as active. Right, so you need to be clear of this here. Okay, I think every passive fire protection is unique by itself, right? So we cannot treat it as a normal engineering product. It's not, because it deals with life safety, right? Especially today, I think most of us here involved in designing of life safety, fire protection engineering stuff things here, and particularly for myself working for a passive fire protection company here, right? The life is at stake here. Whatever I say on stage today, whatever I propose one day to you guys, right, I'm liable actually, right? If hopefully there's no fire, right? But if there's a fire, coincidentally I was also involved in this project, then I think it's very tough to get through this, right? So please treat it, all passive fire protection system are different. Actually, it's different, right? It's not the same. It's not only about the pricing. Hey, yours is cheaper, his is cheaper. No. It's not talking about that, right? We are talking about whether it will work or not. How are we going to guarantee that here? Okay. And then of course, now the liability issue. Hey, are you the one who responsible? Am I the one who responsible? So I would say this is that until the right to the subcon who do the installation, right, until the top architects here, all of us are responsible of putting a foot into it when we start to be specifying in all this pacifier protection system here, right? So get a reputable pacifier protection solution company, right? Go and talk to them, right? And have a meeting with them, try to have a solution together on this, right? So I think that's all I think for today. Hopefully my talk won't actually bore everything. I think everybody is awake. Thank you very much. I think I didn't see anyone fall asleep today. So hopefully at least that's a conceptual, right, idea, okay, regards of is a data center or what other buildings that you're in designing later on in your career life, right? So thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. John Shaw. At this point, without further ado, I'd like to invite architect Chua Li Lin on stage to give us the presentation for our second part for the agenda. And before I actually formally invite her, I'd like to give you a little bit of a bio. Architect Chua Li Lin began her career designing spaces for people, from homes and offices to schools, where she had hoped the next generation might grow up a little more inspired before being thrown into the fast-paced world of high-performance buildings. She now leads data center and semiconductor projects, hitting multidisciplinary teams through tight timelines, global standards, and the ongoing challenge of making complex systems work within clear forms which can be built quickly. So without further ado, I'd like to call upon architect Chua Li Lin.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for coming on the Saturday morning. I will try my best. So today's topic is this, and if you see that little thing there, it was like data centers, everybody doesn't know what the project brief is, but we actually need it yesterday. It's true. I think that most of you have done data centers, that's why you guys are here today. And yeah, we thought that we are designing a building. Can I have my speaker notes here, because I can't really tell what's coming up next. Sorry. So I thought I was designing a building, but whenever we see the project brief, this is all we see. It's fans, cables, water tanks, fuel tanks, a lot of acronyms. Nobody understands what that acronym is. And that excitement actually turns into 3 C's. Yeah, that's the one. And without further ado, machines need houses too. Cannot. So I am on my own now. Okay, I will remember. What is a data center? I think some of my clients are looking at me closely because data center is about NDAs. So I do not have any pictures or any layouts to show you, but don't worry, I still remember my NDAs. Oh, these are the data centers. They are keeping all the cat pictures and the cat videos that you take every day. It's all sent here. And because we like cats so much, tier 1 is actually those that you kind of have in your office, not many redundancies. And tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 is really like the uptime that is required per year. And it's also showing like how much redundancies that you need. So basically, it must run 24 hours, 7 days a week, flawlessly. But in Malaysia, we cannot hit tier 4. Nobody can hit tier 4. So we come up with the most Chinese name ever, tier 3A. Why? Because we have monopoly power providers. We have monopoly water supply providers. So that's the best we can do. We can provide everything, except we cannot provide dual power, we cannot provide dual water. Okay, So these are the basic components of a data center. Of course, taken off the website. I can never show you anything, so sorry. So it comprises of all these things. Fire protection, network infrastructure, of course, that's the most important things. But I'm going to tell you why fire protection is so important in data centers. It's for a totally different meaning. So colo versus hyperscale, you hear this all the time. I'm going to break it down into very quick, very simple terms for you. Summary, colo is a co-working space for servers, but obviously they're not going to be arm-in-arm linked like this because everybody is so private. It is P and C top. So they are very separated, but they all exist in one building. Hyperscale, it's a single client, and they know exactly what they want. So these are the things that you're expecting in colos and hyperscale. So when the design brief comes in for colo, it is so flexible, it is so dynamic, nobody knows what they want because they haven't got a tenant yet, and they have an idea of what their tenant wants. So that's where you are like, every meeting you're like, can we please have the rack server layout, please? Can we? But nobody will be able to give you that answer. But for hyperscalers are those very big companies that you know, they rhyme with Amazon, they rhyme with Google, so they know exactly what they want. And every meeting is like, here's 700 pages of BOD, follow it exactly, but make it local compliant, please. So that's what they want. And the architect's role is really that, trying to juggle between multiple users and trying to meet and appease that person who knows exactly what they want in hyperspeed. I am not sure if you are experiencing this with me. This is a cheat sheet for all of you here if you haven't touched a data center yet. So after this cheat sheet, you can sit into a meeting for the first 3 months and pretend that you know what they are talking about. Every room has a 3 or 4 letter name. I'm not kidding you. This is what I see every day. Can we have the FT in the CRAH for the FWU? How do I minute this? I don't know how to write meeting minutes. So it always translates into this. But anyway, I have the cheat sheet for you here. So these are the things that is the essential terms. You have the white space, which is the main server here. This is where the money is generated. You have the gray space, which everybody hates, but really is taking all the space, right? And then you have the crack and the CRA, which is mission critical life support, because you have the hot aisle, you have the cold aisle, you have things to cool. Right? And of course, you have the PDU, and you have the genset, which is life support number 2, because power can never break down. Power must be always on. And you have WESDA, which is the ASD. It's a little more dramatic than the standard smoke detectors, and you have all of these. So I think with this, you can go into a meeting. It's fine. So as if we do not have enough acronyms already, we always start with this. TDD, DDDs, and DDs. So what is TDD? It's really done before a site acquisition. It's trying to tell, the client is trying to buy a land, and he's trying to see how much I can build here. Oh, no, sorry. TDD is really like, do I have power here? Do I have water here? Do I have enough? Is this place like always flooded? No one knows. So that's when they ask us to do a TDD. And the next one is a DDD, which is a test fit essentially. So test fit is to get a brief from them, a very prelim brief that changes throughout the whole 3 months that you're doing it, and say, see if it fits. Does it fit? I don't know, but I know that if you go on DD, because timeline is always so short, if you go on DD, directly without a TDD and DDD, then I can only say good luck to you. Okay, so I'm going to take a break here from all the acronyms and show you this very stressful image. Because this is what happens in test fits. They come to you with one building, and the next meeting is like, I would like to have more megawatts. Can I do it? And please, with more megawatts come with more power and water demand. So you have to be very, very careful in balancing optimism and whatever that you can do in reality. We just have to be very, very practical about this. And we have to tell the client that, you know, you need all of this. This is really just what you can get, okay? Please do not overpromise. I know that it is us who we always say that we are very helpful. We want to say that, yes, we can do it, but please check. Okay, water, power, and permit. So we definitely have these three things that we always talk about: power, water, noise, and environmental factors. Power. TNB is actually coping, I think, as well as they can. They can always generate power. They are coming out with new guidelines that promise you power up in very short time. I know because I do residential, the only thing that always hits us is that TNB cannot power up in time. So it's always, where is the nearest 275 kV? Where is the power line? Where is it coming? When is the second nearest substation for my dual line? Right? And also the other thing is that transformer yard, we affectionately call it backyard. So we have that, and the security buffers and very good neighbors. You need to have very, very good neighbors, okay? Preferably no neighbors. And you have water. This is what I get every day. I need insane amount of water every day. Can you secure or not? Now, my friends, we can generate more power. We cannot generate water. I don't know where are we going to generate water, but IWK has an answer for you. IWK proudly stood up and said, I can give you water. Guess from where? So that's really a real thing. They are actually talking about 5 million liters per day of water that IWK actually says that, you know, I can commit this to you, right? So I've been telling the clients that, you know what, the next CSR that you need to do is to feed the community nearby, so that there's more output for your water. Okay, a stream nearby is not considered water. Unfortunately, for cooling, we actually need very, very clean water. Because if we have impurities or not so clean water, right, then that cooling is actually really, really inefficient. So you really, really need potable water. And I find that really ridiculous. Unfortunately, water wins. Noise and environmental factors. I actually really appreciate this because every time we talk about this in school, we don't really do it in our works. I didn't do it for the first 15 years of my working life. I didn't really do it. But they actually do environmental check. They have environmental engineers right now. So they go into the, I don't know, plantation, like ladang kelapa sawit, and then they will go and look for artifacts. They will go and look at what kind of fauna, flora is there. Usually it's just monyet and babi hutan lah. And whether the water quality is good or not, whether is there any pollution or not. And if you take a step further, which I have some clients that do, and I really, really appreciate it, is that they do a community survey. Because they will check, say things like, how would the community feel with a new data center within their area? So I think that is really, really meaningful. To me as an architect, I think at least this thing is covered. So let's just try. I mean, we have to do a project. We have to work because we need to cari makan. But we really need to do what is right. Compliance. Yes, authority submission. Our favorite. Yeah, that's what's happening on a daily or weekly basis. So now I'm going to show you this. Yeah, commencing building works is so very important because my timeline nowadays are from the first day that I get a phone call until RFS, which is they equivalent it to CCC, is 12 months. So the construction time is really, really ridiculous, and you can see how tight all this permitting is. And this is what the authority promised us, right? And they changed their mind. And you now cannot carry out your building works because Plan Malaysia decided that I want to step in and study what is a data center. So now you add more. Plan Malaysia, it is a pre-submission to a submission. Okay? And quarter 4 2024 was such an interesting time, and that was the time that I was carrying out a submission. It is so interesting because Plan Malaysia now decided that, oh no, you guys are submitting a lot of rubbish. I need a pre-Plan Malaysia submission to a pre-Plan Malaysia submission before I can submit my KM and BP. I'm not kidding you. So that's additional 2.5 months. Okay? And our Abang Bomba also realized that, oh no, I also need to be in the action. So now, I need to have a presentation to Bomba before I can submit the pre-Plan Malaysia to the pre-submission to the pre-consult. So these things are real. And you think that, yes, I am going to the next slide. Nah, sorry. Some AHJs changed their mind. They say that, no, fast lane is too fast. We need to kaji semula apa itu data center and how it affects our community. I mean, I am all for it. I think it is really good because in JB recently, to my horror, everyone is building a data center there. I am not killing my own business. I'm not killing everyone's business, but everyone is building a data center. Data centers in a 50-acre data center, guess how many workers are there? I do not have a gift, but guess how many workers do they employ in a 50 acres data center? 30. I think that's about it, 30 people. Right? It's going to be a mass, empty community that just takes and takes and takes. And they don't give back. They probably give back in terms of taxes and, I don't know, water utility fees, but they don't really give back to the community. So I think it's really good that Plan Malaysia realized this, and they are actually looking at, how we can improve these areas and what we are going to make all these clients do, So part of it is their CSR commitment to the society, and I really, really appreciate that. So I do not mind this pre-submission, but clients that are quite familiar with us, they do understand this. A lot of clients, they do not. So I'm going to show you the next slide, which is this. What are these? Buffer time. We will never get. I mean, I haven't gotten it. I cannot say that we will never get, but this is what I always tell my clients. I always add in a buffer because buffer is my lifeline. Everyone is so certain these days. So if you commit a 6 week, it means it's 6 weeks. You get into a meeting that is 2 hours, it ends 2 hours on the dot. It doesn't trail past 2 hours, and I really like that. And I need certainty. So sorry, nobody can give you that answer. I can't. With authority submission, there is really not much we can do. So if you would like to challenge this, then I invite you to join PAM PPC. Okay, so yeah, I think I owe you guys to say this, but we probably know this already. I'm just gonna pick up like a few things. Bomba is also very naughty. They sneak this in. And look at the Tarik Berkuat Kuasa. It says, during the signature of Ketua Pengarah, and it's on almost the same day that they released this. So you really it's a change, right? All the things that you have prepared for, it is a change. But I do not blame them because a lot of architects, they try to have very creative interpretations on this. So I think one of the good things that came out is that they actually say kumpulan maksud is kilang, which is good because some are really, really submitted and approved as officers. No compartmentation limit, wonderful. So go ahead, kilang, it's fine. The other thing that I find quite strange is that this here, even the unmanned areas will have to be calculated in your occupancy load. So I find this really quite irritating, but we were, I do not know privileged or not, one of the first one to submit, so we have to go to Abang Bomba's office quite often in Putrajaya. before this came out. And one of the reasons is that in a fire, everybody runs out. The poor abang bomba have to run in. So I think they are trying to make provisions to themselves to safeguard that, make sure that my people are safe. I can go and fight fire for you. So, okay. And this one here is, I call it the 2BS8414 or not 2BS8414. So it's easy. From this diagram, it's anything that is over 18 meters high, please BS8414, parts 1 and 2. Don't go for part 1, don't go for part 2 only, it is both parts, okay? Not more than 18 meters, class 0 is fine, but up to your discretion. These are the minimum requirements. Bomba and UBBL always gives you the minimum requirements, up to you. To your discretion, you can do more. This was covered just now. So something that is very interesting here is that the element of structures in the previous interpretation, where this is not really applicable anywhere else but data center, is that whatever gantries that you're using to carry up the HVACs or cooling towers, whatever it is on top of the roof, we will say that, nobody is going to be there, right? So no problem. But we forgot one thing. Abang Bomba is going to go and do a post-mortem after that. So you're really asking for this so that when after a fire and they go inside, that thing doesn't topple down on them. I think it is okay. It's not so bad, right? Our favorite one is BESS. Okay, so this is something new. Well, we have EV fires. I mean, this thing came out together almost the same time as the EV charging guidelines. I think they came out together. So Bomba recently realized that it is very difficult to fight battery fires from batteries, because they just go on and on and on until the fuel is actually burned out. So this is the thing that they are compromising. You can build it as high as 18 meters. Why 18 meters? Because that's the, that limit where you have your bomba truck and then you go that turntable, that's the 18 meters. So a lot of things is really 18 meters. And I know this actually is a 26-page document from Bomba. And Bomba actually took the time to, in the first 10 pages, to explain to you what a data center is. So Bomba actually know what the data center is. You cannot keep Bomba anymore. So this is something that I think our interest is to dapatkan pengecualian, because we are really not interested in giving you, the next one. This, I think, trying to get this is impossible. It's really impossible. I don't think anyone has a battery room that is this gigantic. So your best bet is really, keep it within 50 kWh, and also get all your UL 9540A certification. And then, please, this is to Bomba's discretion. It is your duty to go to Abang Bomba and, Tuan, saya sekarang memperbentangkan mengapa saya buat macam ni. Okay? It's not, Tuan, boleh tak saya buat macam ni? Okay? If you do that, chances are maybe you get smacked by a red book. And do you know the new red book, right? It's this thick, and it comes in hardcover, so it's going to be very painful. Okay, so, what was I going to say here? Okay, so we have that extinguishing system. Of course, these are minimum requirements. When you do a data center, there's always additional over and the top. So MS only requires you to provide a sprinkler. And of course, fire protection in data centers is really to delay water as long as possible. It is not interested in getting the occupants out. They are interested in keeping the servers run as long as possible. So it is a different game, right? So that's why you see I have a double knock pre-action sprinkler, double knock system. I have VESDA, da. So please don't go to Abang Bomba and, Tuan, boleh tak saya buat macam ni? No, right? The guideline is very clear. You comply to MS. Anything that you provide above, over, and atop, it's for you to provide. But don't go, just follow lah, huh? Don't go and fight this, because we do not have time, right? One thing. The other thing is, if you really want to fight this, please welcome to join the firework group. Elena will be very happy. Okay, so one of the oddities that I find, I mean, all of us can agree whether this is a good one or it's not a good one. Nobody knows, but I skipped the gun, I jumped the gun a little bit. So one of the things that the bomber and the client can never agree is the electrical isolation switch. So nowadays, electrical isolation switch are also very creative. I'm not going to tell you how they do it. Ask your engineers how they are doing it. But basically, all these areas are super high powered. And we know that electricity and water, they are not best friends. So when you use water to fight fire, which we always do, why don't we do gas suppression system? Do you know? Do you know why we don't use gas suppression system other than cost? Do you know? Water fights fire the best. We have like a lot of water. But gas, once you finish and exhaust the gas, that's it. And battery fires will actually keep on burning and burning and burning. Even though it stopped for a while, it will continue burning later on. So that's why a lot of people, they actually don't use FM200. They use water, right? So that's where, you know, Bomba wants to come in. He wants to switch off the water so that he don't get the electric shock when he shoots water towards the fire. But client says that, no, you have to allow me enough time to transfer out my data so it will burn until it dies. So that's where you have to meet in between. And the other thing that is very interesting in this is that you actually need a dry riser system if you have BESS. I do not know any data center that do not have a BESS. We actually have a lot of it. And you actually need to provide a dry riser system. So I actually do not fully understand why this needs. So maybe if you guys are semangat, please have this discussion with Bomba. The other thing that I feel strange is that we have to provide hose reels all around. Hose reels are for people like you and me. We're not trained. We use hose reel to fight fire. But I feel that if I see a fire, I feel a bit heroic, I want to use a hose reel, that's actually very dangerous because we are not trained to fight fire in the data center. So that's also something that I find quite peculiar. So feel free to come and discuss with me what you think is peculiar or what do you think is good about this circular. So that's all. It's not a full fire protection talk. It's just skimming through. And we move on to the other creature. Plan Malaysia. Oh, I love this. Plan Malaysia was first introduced to Johor, specifically Johor only. It was in April 2024. Very memorable for me because it just popped out of nowhere, right? And the Johor version, compared to this version, is slightly different. This one came in October last year. It's for Malaysia, for the whole of Malaysia. And of course, Johor says that kita sudah mewatarkan ini, semua pembangunan data center di Johor perlu menggunakan garis panduan ini. And guess what? We do not have data center only in Johor. We have data centers elsewhere. So when you do a DDD or TDD, you need to know what guidelines you are using, right? Give a phone call to your AHJ. Hello, Puan. Ada tak guna garis panduan ni? Oh, kita tahu ya ada garis panduan ni dari Plan Malaysia, tapi belum diwatakan lagi. So you gunakan dah sebagai rujukan saja. Oh my goodness, what do you mean sebagai rujukan? Yes or no? I do not know. Do I follow or do I not follow? For you to understand. So this one is really good because they already tell you upfront that you can do a data center in a kawasan baru, obviously. And you can do it in a commercial and also an industrial land. So that's really good because they're making our lives a bit easier, right? And of course, the AHJs go rogue. They always have to come up with their own additional requirements. They have to. I feel like maybe it's a KPI for them. So in Johor Bahru, when you actually change tukar guna tanah and to build a data center, you actually have to have data center kurungan in the geran tanah. I do not know how ridiculous this is. If you have industry alone, sorry, tak boleh ya. Commercial, tak boleh ya. Data center kurungan, itu boleh. Masuklah. Okay, then one of the good things that they understand is that you actually have to have new utility reserve, additional utility reserve, because they recognize that you are bringing in, dual supply, dual whatever, how many POEs, how many power cables, how many water cables, water pipes, blah, blah, blah. So this is really good. It's very good for them to recognize this. And you can also do retrofits. Retrofits are very common in Singapore because no more land. That's what they do. They retrofit buildings to become data centers, right? And of course, in the guideline, you have this. I find this, I cannot. I don't understand. But my only recommendation is that do not trust all these beautiful charts semata-mata, jangan. Please speak to your nearest AHJ to get the full picture, okay? Because it's not diwatakan sepenuhnya everywhere. Okay. Yeah, that's what we always get. Can we build it by August? I don't know. But when you say no, then we'll say, oh, it's just a box. Yes. And this is A++. Speed, performance, and cost must be taken care of. And whatever that you think that you want to do to your beautiful data center, sorry, it is a fast-track delivery. Whatever facade that you aspire to have, it is actually controlled by how fast you can get this material out. That's the reality. So, of course, we are the professional juggler. You see this little uncle over here. That's what we do. You have statutory deadlines. You have to masukkan that submission because you only have 1 year to finish the work. But M&E inputs tak siap lagi. And, can we have more megawatt? Yes, you can, but actually I need to maintain compliance. No, you cannot go past creative ways for the smoke compartmentation. You need to comply to this. If not, then please provide smoke extraction. No, we don't want smoke extraction. Don't want, Okay, comply. No need to talk so much. Finding buildable details. So then don't make your QS panic. Your QS is actually your best friend. Okay? Generally trying to make all SMEs happy. They have like 100 million SMEs all over the world. I do not know how many meetings we have with all these random SMEs, right? So there you go. So that's what you're trying to do, right? Fast track project. Definition of fast track. It's true. We pile first. We do not know what we are piling, but because everything is prefab, we pile first. Yes, because the prefab modules are not determined yet. So we build first, and then, oh no, we're changing another prefab. Okay, congratulations. Procurement decisions based on X stock, whatever that I can get my hands on fast, I will use it in this project. This is my favorite. I have never in my life issued so many drawings with TBC. But I have to, because construction must go on. Okay? Things to expect in a fast-track project. Yes, because you do not know where your engineers are. And you're issuing the same door schedule for the 9th time, and 7 different people ask you again, have you issued the same door schedule? I'm not kidding you. It's really because there's so many stakeholders at place. And all these SMEs that I'm talking about, they don't communicate internally because they're all over the world. It's not all over the country, they're all over the world. And they hardly speak to each other. And guess who is the common point? You. You are the common point. So many people will come and ask you the same questions again. Some tips from what I learned so far. I know we are OCD people, but no. Resist it. Resist OCD. Make friends with everybody. I know you don't really like them, but try to make friends. Yes, everything that you say, they say yes, yes, yes. By lunchtime, it changes. Quick coordination calls. Quick coordination calls are what I do on an entire day basis. But on a serious note, because everything moves so fast, everything is so fluid and so dynamic, it has to be really, really fast, and it has to be very, very clear. This is true. I can say it here, but to do what you say is very difficult. This is really version control. We are using ACC now, new format, don't know what, all this cloud further populating the data center. But version control is so difficult because your team grows so big, and every other people's team grows so big, and you really don't know what version you're using, and the contractor also don't know what version you're issuing. And label everything. Everything must be labeled. Kids now, they do not know and do not understand what is the importance of labeling. It is our duty. We are a bit older. We have to teach them that it is very important to label everything. Right? Yes. Building will be finished by August. I just don't know which August it is. Okay. Right. Cats? Cats are not very cooperative creatures. I love them. You ask them to come, they will So that's really what I feel every time, because we are everywhere. We are in KL. Our projects are in JB and here and there, here and there, here and there. And it is really across time zones, because your client may be in, Sydney. Some of the SMEs are in California. Some of them are in India. Some of them are in Singapore. Even though we have the same timeline, we don't really have the same timeline. Even though we have the same time zone, we don't really have the same time zone. We have Indonesian time, this and that, this and that. So global teams, local deadlines. Deadlines still follow Malaysian time. So this is what happens. And the plane is probably delayed. Sorry, I'm late. My plane is delayed. That's this. I think it's so ridiculous that every day I have to say, it's a Teams Meet link, it's a Zoom link, and I complain that Teams, we cannot sketch. We are architects, we need to sketch, but Teams cannot sketch. But certain clients say that you must use Teams. You cannot use any other platform, right? So this is what we are struggling with every day. It's ridiculous. And again, the uncle appears. Oh, I just love this. You want everything. And the structural engineer finds the precise area that you need it and put the deepest beam there. And have you seen a coordination drawing? It's really marvelous, because you have the base building MEP consultant, you have the data center MEP, and when you overlay everything, I don't even know where the data hall is anymore. All I see are just lines and lines and lines, layers and layers. So that's really interesting. So another tips. So I have to over-communicate. Do not assume. I know this is so common sense, but never assume. What I assume is that if I didn't say it, they probably didn't do it. That is my assumption. Keep a shared log of decisions, because it will be forgotten the next week. Clients nowadays, I have clients here, I don't see any faces, but they have selective memory, so yep. Deadlines with buffer time, because the time are so short. You have to ask for some buffer time, or get yourself some buffer time, or convince people that that is the time, but it's actually with buffer time. So that's that. If you get this, then congratulations, you're a professional cat herder. Yes, that orange is for good luck for everyone. All right, so we thought that we know how to design things. So how hard can rainwater discharge on roof be? How hard can it be? Not that hard, right? Until I went to site and I saw a paddy field on my roof. Why? Because the cooling towers, they discharge water at 250 liters per second. And they didn't bother telling us. Right? So that's really interesting. Yeah, this is temporary, this is temporary. Do not believe them. That minor change, sorry, we need to do a ABP now. Foreign clients want local compliance, and they cannot understand why we cannot get them the approval within 2 months. It is a fast lane. Why can't I get it in 2 months? Try explaining that for the 11th time. You are like a textbook. You will be like me. I am a textbook now. Right, so yeah, I know we all love Beam Model LOD 400, but no, 8:45 Friday, that's where all your phone calls come. So that's the only thing I can say. Stay curious, ask all questions early. Do not, because we are architects, sometimes I feel a bit like, should I ask this question? Is this a silly question? But I do not care. At this point in time, I do not care how silly the question is. I ask it anyway, right? Because if you detect the problem early, you can solve it. If not, then please enjoy your paddy field on the roof. Okay, invisible building with visible impact. So I actually think that building a data center, for some time I was actually struggling because I was building buildings for human. Now I have to build buildings for machine. It doesn't feel very architectural because all we want to do is we want to do good, right? But you know what? Over the years, I feel like, we can do something. So this is, yeah, that's a very big disclaimer there because I signed a very, very, very stringent NDA. So these are not my works. They are from Google Images. But it's quite easy to determine whether it's a colo or a hyperscale. Do you know the difference? A colo is that when you actually need tenants to come in. So colo will be beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful colos, very beautiful. This one here, I do not care. It is for my own server. I want it to be as invisible as possible. So that's really how, if you pass by a data center and say, is that a colo or a hyperscale? This will be the telltale sign. And you will realize that, it has no signages. They don't even want to tell you who owns this building. Sometimes in construction signboard, they will say, hey, please don't put my name there. I don't want to be identified, right? Yes. If it fails, then there's a lot of noise. So these are the things that really bug me because they are there. They are there, but they do look invisible and they are unpopulated and they are just so deserted, but they are doing their things. So as an architect, I ask myself, what can I do? And again, my clients are not here, so I push for locally made components because I think the least that we can do is we support our local industry. I think Barang Buatan Malaysia is amazing. I do that. The other thing that we do is to reduce that carbon footprint because why would I choose to use a waterproofing that is imported from, say, I do not know, Timbuktu, all the way here? It doesn't make sense because Malaysia does produce waterproofing. Or go to your neighboring country because every single carbon footprint matters, right? And the last question is that what will this building give back to the place it occupies? It's just existing there, it's not doing anything. So if my clients are here, they will think that I'm mad because this is what I think I want to do, right? I mean, they have various security setbacks. All these security setbacks are so stringent. Nobody's going to occupy that patch of grass. The securities me will probably kill me for saying this, but okay, if you do not want to let people go near your building, the least you can do is, use that building facade, which is just, layers and layers of wall as a art facade. I think at least it gives back to the community, visually at least, right? So I think this is what we have to do. We do not design just for uptime, but for place and planet. I'm not the best person to advocate this, but really data centers are just data centers. There's no glory in them. They are just existing there, a warehouse for servers. So as architects, I think it's time for us to go to the next step and see what we can do better, right? And why do we need architects in data centers? I ask this question to my boss all the time. I was like, boss, why I have to be in data center? It seems like the engineer can do it. Answer is no. Obviously, we need a PSP. Oh, thank God, we get our fees. Okay, no, really. Why architects are required? So this is something that is very true. Someone has to make everything make sense. I do not know why, but I am grateful every day that architects actually have like very good vision when we have like 360 vision. We can see a lot of things. We can, package everything and make it work. Try asking your other friends to do it. They will have a bit of difficulty. I do not know why, but I am very grateful that architects can do this. The future needs us to do it better, right? So that little chicken on the globe appears again. We really need it to be better because we are architects. In our school, try to remember in first year, your teacher will ask you, or lecturer will ask you, kenapa Anda, what do you say? Choose architecture. And try to remember what is your answer. You want to make the world a better place. Sometimes we forget all of these things. Saya suka melukis. Okay, what? Translate intent into actions. So yes, we are translating all the briefings and all the our intention into action. But really, there's a lot of compromise, and it's really up to you to filter whether that compromise you can accept or not. If you can accept, then yes, good. If you cannot accept, try to fight for it. Okay? I'm going to share this with you. When you hear the client say, can we rotate the whole building, our BOD change? I do not know in one month how many times the BOD can change, really. Especially when they're trying a new type of prototype. That's very interesting. Sorry, new guideline. Belum upload kat website lagi. Right? And we have contractors. I already cast Not final one, your drawing. Sure not? Fourth Teams call of the day, same project, same block. Now what we do is we actually do large campuses. We have blocks, quite a lot of blocks. But when you have the fourth Teams call at the same day on the same block, it's really quite depressing. My record is by 2 p.m., I actually am on my 8th call already. It's crazy. You're jumping from one call to another, one call to the other. And this is my favorite. Hey, what do you do? I don't know. I just say, I built 4 walls, 1 roof, I put servers inside. The end. Right, so why do I still do this anyway? Why would you do this anyway? Why? It's messy, it's fast, confusing, it's full of acronyms. But if you look between that, it's also, it sounds really good on paper. It sounds really good. High stakes, collaborative, it's global. You learn a lot of things that, we have been working in Malaysian context for so long. I work somewhere outside, but also with Malaysian consultants for a while. So these are things that you do see a lot of cultures across because in the various accents that you hear inside, then you realize that this is how they behave. But most of all, everyone actually respects your time. And I think time is such an important thing. If you respect people's time, they will respect you. Okay? So the answer is because you will never be bored. You will be exhausted, but you will never be bored. Okay, this is something that I share with my friends. Why do I do data centers? I think as an architect, I can contribute to humankind survival. In case of zombies apocalypse, please head to your nearest data center. I am not kidding you. This data center has K4 rated anti-climb fence with barbed wires on top. Zombies cannot climb. Zombies may know how to open door. Some zombies know. Korean zombies don't know how to open door. Okay, but they can climb. American zombies can climb the wall. You watch the Tom Cruise movie where they climb up the wall. So this one is K4 anti-rated. Oh, Brad Pitt, sorry, yes. So, yep, they can't. They have layers and layers of security. So when you're inside the data center, you want to know what is happening outside, we have CCTVs. You have climate control, very important. Climate control. I will tell you why climate control is so important. And why potable water is so important? Potable water because water is essential for our survival lah kan? And you have power supply and fuel tanks, so your aircon keeps running. It's good. So this is the pro tip. Before you run to the nearest data center, bring potatoes with you. Did you watch Life on Mars, is it? Is it that one? Do you watch? Bring potatoes with you. Why? Because I have climate control. I have water, and I have server racks. I can take out the servers and start planting. Right? So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for the very entertaining presentation. That zombie picture, I think, looks like most of us love when we come back from a CCM meeting or something. Okay, so at this point, of course, we'd like to get on to the Q&A. So I'd like to call upon our guests to please come back onto the stage for the Q&A. Let's see. Yes, I would like to call back Architect Chua Li Lin and, of course, Mr. John Cha on stage to be interrogated by the members of the audience, for those of you who dare to ask them. So please, can we have you on stage, please? Architect Chua Li Lin and Mr. John Cha. Okay, yes, any direction is fine. Okay, so who would like to get the ball rolling and ask the first question? All you have to do is just raise your hand and someone with the mic will come to you and pass you the mic. And feel free to ask any question to any speaker, or of course you can even direct the question to both of them. Introduce yourself so that we know who you are. And of course, by all means. So who would like to ask the first question? How many of you have done data centers, just out of curiosity? Raise your hand. Only one. Oh, you cannot even ask who's done it. You can, okay, no, I can understand if it's a private client, but you can't even ask who's done a data center. Okay, well, I saw a few hands raised just now. So, sorry, what was the difference between that colo and hyperscale? I mean, the colo, right? The colo category. What is the difference between that and hyperscale? I got to be honest, I've never heard of that colo before.
Okay. Colo is co-location. Co-location means that you are sharing the same building, but it's shared by a different tenant. So maybe party A will be there, party B will be there, party C will be there. So they will be sharing the same premises, keeping their data in a shared environment.
I see. So it's like different, like, one client could be Google and someone else could be Microsoft, things like that, is it?
Correct.
Okay. And that's the one that has to look nice.
Yes, because I'm asking people to come. Please come and rent the space from me.
Right, okay. Branding is involved. All right, fine. Okay, right, thanks. Yeah, please someone pass her the mic.
Architect Chua mentioned that the PSP has to be an architect. I thought engineers can also be PSP for engineering buildings.
Well, for data centers, actually, we need an architect. For simpler buildings, the code does allow the SP to submit it, which is the engineers.
Actually, I was under the impression as well, because it's kilang, that you can get an engineer,
Well, it's a bit more complex than a kilang. The purpose group is a kilang, but it's a bit more complex than that.
All right. Okay, thank you for the first question. Let's get a second one. I think data center is very new, so it's, Okay, our second question also by another lady in front, also in black.
Hi. Okay. Question. Do you need to engage fire engineer PBA for your data center, and does it include with your timeline?
Okay. We have a PBA when we actually choose to deviate from the UBBL provisions. So if we do not deviate away from the UBBL provisions, we do not need a fire engineer. Timeline for PBA is a bit more tricky because there's more consultations with Abang Bomba, and it has to be done before all the pre submissions. So that timeline is really, really very expanded. And actually, I think all the clients, or most clients, they are actually aware of this already, and they do say first thing is that we will comply with every basic things inside without making deviations.
Okay, we've got one from the gentleman. Please introduce yourself, and who the question is for.
Hi, my name is Michael. I want to direct the question to Ms. Chua. Okay, my question is, how do you manage the EOD and LED? I know that the LED is very high. The management and also, you know, the performance bond, normally it's more than 5%, 10 to 20%. How do you manage to get them done and at the same time don't charge in the LED? How you manage EOD, all this? Thank you.
That's a very difficult question. So first thing first, I'm going to tell you is that I am free from contract management because we have project managers. Contract managers found their way, they wriggle into all the projects, so they are the SOs now. But in reality is that people who actually pick up data centers, they are actually very established builders. They do have very strong financial backings. Most of the times they are international bodies, so there's no issue. We haven't faced any issues on that. DLD is also something that everyone is aware, and they do try their very, very best to meet the RFS because that LD is only to the contractor. But in case of colos, our client have their clients to meet, so that LD is also very, very significant. So a lot of people just, when they get into site, the first thing is timeline.
It's contractual matters. Huh? I guess we're going to get a lot more questions for architecture today. So Mr. John Cha, you can just take it easy, I think.
Maybe okay. I can ask him a question.
Okay, so can we get the next question? Can we get the next question so far? Okay, we have another one. From the gentleman in the mask who wants to remain anonymous.
Hi.
Like a hyperscale building.
Sorry, I would like to ask Mr. John Cha, that you introduced some of the fire stopping material and some of the products. Obviously, I think it's from your company. Other than the protection of the cables and also the conduits and also the pipes, I believe those are not important. In fact, in data center, the priority is to protect the data, not the rest of the items in the building. Other than the structure, I think structure must be very, very safe so it doesn't collapse during the fire. Secondly, is the data itself, the server, the SSD, HSD, the direct attached storage system, the equipment. So do you have an idea or products can protect these servers? For instance, like the blankets in the event of fire, a blanket system to cover it by using other than CO2, because CO2 is toxic. You don't use water because this water will damage the equipment. Other than that, do you have any more advanced protection on the data itself? Rather than priority given to the pipes, wires, those pipes we can let go, never mind. In case of fire, wiring they are not important anymore. We can let it burn. But the data is most precious item in the data center. This is a data center 4. So you didn't emphasize on how to protect this data system, the server, because the server can be miniature or become very big mainframe. But what are the systems available in the market at the moment? Thanks.
Yeah, very, very good question from a gentleman here. I think in a data center, I mean, until today, my experience going through many, many different data centers, right? So it's like some of them, they have various compartmentation. First place. If let's say there's a fire that developed in one room, let's say area, right? It's very subjective, the design of this data center. So some is that one big floor of the server racks, everything is inside there. Then they have compartmentation. Means that they are willing to, like, let's say one area start to caught fire, right? So that's where they try to prevent the fire spread from this particular, they can burn this, right? We cannot avoid that. Maybe the active system will come into play, try to suppress the fire, right? So, but the importantly is that passive come in is to prevent the spread from this to another compartment, right? They doesn't want that to allow, right? So of course, there's what I mentioned just now, my talk is that there's a lot of cables penetrating through here and there, right? So we are trying to stop that small little weak point from the fire spread, right? So didn't see, if you ask me the question, is there a technology, something maybe, I don't know, active, inactive, what they're going to do? There's a blanket or whatever to quickly stop the fire or what. But in passive role, it's very, very clear. It's just that sometimes there's a fire happen in one area, but our role is just to prevent it, stop the fire from there from spreading to another area. Right.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. Because you look kind of like, Okay, no problem. We'll move on to the next one. Who else would like to ask a question? I think the audience is very well informed. You did a very good job, I think, both of you. The less questions, the better, I guess. I tell you what, we'll take one more because we have to end at 12:30 anyway, and there's a lucky draw session of sorts after this. So we'll take one last question before we proceed to the lucky draw session of sorts. I'm not sure how to name that session after this. So who would like to ask a last question? Okay, yes, we have one in front. Okay. Thank you.
I think not much of a question, but just trying to get, I think, Chua talk about what can we give back to the community in this data center. Maybe as architects we could explore better in terms of, can it be a park? It can be something, you know? That maybe just questions that that has triggered you to try to bring people in rather than just leave it as a isolated, annihilated land. You know. Yeah, thank you. Maybe you can elaborate on that more. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking of the same because these areas are unmanned, and in Malaysia, one of the issues that I find is that I bring lunch to office sometimes, and I realize that I do not have a place to eat lunch. I have to either eat at the staircase core, I have to eat at the mechanical rooftop, or whatever it is. So we do not have enough pocket parks, but in data centers, cyber threat security is real. Human threat is also real, so they do not want to allow people to go near that. So that's something that I've been thinking of, but I have no answer to that. Because the security SMEs will not allow you to do that. Unfortunately, we can continue fighting though.
Okay, thank you. Okay, one last question, I think from the gentleman at the back, the same guy with the mask. Otherwise, maybe after this, is that okay? Or are you okay to take one more question? You speakers, honored guests, are you okay to take one more question before we end the session? If no one else has, that is. I think there's one more, the same gentleman here.
Yeah, but just to add on some of the ideas. I think data center, I think it's very important. It must be an architect, not an engineer. Why? Because this is complicated building. No engineer can be able to handle this building because it's of the fire protection system. It's about related to fire, complicated fire protection system. It is also the architect's role to plan the building for the client. Because data center is a building. They come over here to, let's say, our country because of the cheap land and cheap power supply, cheap water, and cheap environment. And it doesn't create jobs because there's nobody in the data center. Very minimum human being. So it is not an industrial building that creates jobs opportunity, but it doesn't create jobs. They only occupy our land making full use of our cheap utilities. So it needs architects to plan it correctly, advise the client in the correct location, not engineer or planners, but architect.
Here.
Yes, I do agree with that. I do agree with that. What I'm trying to do today is really like, if you feel stuck being in a data center, because data center is not an architect's dream. Nobody wake up one day and say that I want to build a data center, right? It's just a really tiring and not very rewarding job because you're not giving back to the community. So that's when I started thinking like, and I was hoping that through this discussion that I can stir some of your hearts to go over and beyond and see how we can actually give back to the community around, because they are forced to share their land and their area with data centers. And you see this in America, where the suburbs, people went to the suburbs to retire, but in the end, all these tech giants just built rows and rows and rows of data centers, and they're not very happy about it. And with this case study, I feel like in Malaysia, we have the chance to not repeat that.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's give both our speakers here another round of applause.